You've been told your whole life that forgetting people's names is rude, careless, or a sign of low intelligence. But psychology reveals something completely different. People who chronically forget names aren't actually bad at remembering. In fact, their brains are often prioritizing the exact opposite of what society values, and it might just make you a better person. Think about the last time it happened. The panic, the sweat, the desperate improvisation. You smile, you nod, you hope they introduce themselves to someone else first. It feels like a personal failure. You walk away thinking you're rude or dismissive or just fundamentally broken. But what if I told you that your brain isn't failing to store the information? What if it's intentionally throwing it away? To understand why this happens, we have to look at how the brain categorizes information. In 1987, researchers McWeeny and Ellis published a fascinating study that perfectly explains this exact frustration. It's called the Baker-Baker paradox. They showed two groups a picture of the same man. They told one group his name was Mr. Baker. They told the other group that he was a baker by profession. When tested days later, the group who learned his profession remembered it at a significantly higher rate than the group who learned his name. Why? Because the word baker as a job activates a massive web of associations in your neural network. You instantly picture flour, early mornings, the smell of fresh bread, a white apron. It has context, it has texture, it connects to a pre-existing framework in your mind. But the name baker? It's just an arbitrary sound. It's a linguistic label with no inherent meaning. Your brain, which is an incredibly efficient machine designed to conserve metabolic energy, looks at that isolated name and decides it's not worth the effort to store it. It's not a memory problem. It's a ruthless prioritization problem. But there is a deeper, more uncomfortable layer to this. People who chronically forget names are often the same people who are hyper-aware in social situations. While the other person is extending their hand and saying, "Hi, I'm Sarah," your brain is running a dozen background processes. Am I making enough eye contact? Is my handshake too firm? Did I just interrupt them? You are so busy managing the performance of the interaction that the actual data, the name, slips right through the cracks. Psychologists call this the next-in-line effect. When you are anticipating your own turn to speak, or when you are highly focused on how you are being perceived, your working memory essentially bulldozes the information coming in right before your turn. You aren't ignoring them. You are drowning in your own internal monologue. The name enters your brain for a fraction of a second, and then your anxiety about the interaction completely overwrites it. And this is where the shame spiral usually kicks in. You feel guilty. You think you're signaling to the other person that they don't matter. But here is the truth that nobody tells you. The people who forget names easily are often the exact same people who remember everything else about you. Ask them what you were wearing 3 years ago, and they might draw a blank. But ask them how you felt when you talked about your sister, and they will remember the exact shift in your voice. Ask them about the joke you made that made the whole room laugh, and they can replay the scene perfectly, including the nervous way you tapped your glass. Their memory isn't weak, it's highly associative, it's deeply contextual. It captures the emotional weather of the room, rather than just the dry facts. Their brain is wired to prioritize the emotional resonance of an interaction over the mechanical labeling of it. They are deep processors. They don't just hear the words you say, they read the room. They notice the micro-expressions, the nervous habits, the underlying energy. They are cataloging the texture of who you are, rather than just the tag you've been assigned. Think about a library. The name is just the call number on the spine of the book. It's a filing system. But the people who forget names, they aren't interested in the call number. They open the book, they read the pages, they absorb the story, they remember the feeling the book gave them. And when they see you again, they might not know the call number, but they know exactly what's inside the book. This is a fundamental difference in how human beings navigate connection. Some people are label-oriented. They need the correct terminology, the right title, the exact name to feel grounded in an interaction. But others are essence-oriented. They need the vibe, the emotional truth, the unspoken context. And in a world that is increasingly obsessed with surface-level data, being essence-oriented is a rare and beautiful thing. Society puts a massive premium on remembering names. We treat it as the baseline of respect. We judge people in professional settings, in networking events, and even in our own families based on this single metric. But this metric is fundamentally flawed. It measures rote memorization, not genuine connection. It measures how well you can act like a hard drive, not how well you can act like a human being. So, the next time you blank on an introduction, take a breath, drop the guilt. You don't need to force your brain to become a filing cabinet. You just need to understand its architecture. If you want to get better at it, you can use manual tricks. Repeat their name back to them immediately. Connect it to a visual. Build a bridge between the arbitrary sound and something you already know. But never let the shame convince you that you are an uncaring person. You are someone whose brain prioritizes depth over labels. You are someone who remembers the way a person makes you feel, rather than just what they are called. And honestly, in a world full of people who know your name but don't know your story, that is a much better way to be. If this hit home for you, please subscribe.